Hi everyone, coming back at you again with another one take video. About 4 years ago, actually, is when I found out that I was admitted to Stanford. So in celebration of this and in sort of recognition of Stanford transfer admissions being released pretty soon, I thought I'd make a video covering some of the things that I wish that I did when I was approaching Stanford and in the first couple of months that I was here. And this is obviously not exhaustive, but I think that these are pretty poignant based on some of the things that I've been seeing in the transfer community lately, as well as some of the rumblings and concerns about what it's like to transfer here from those who are anxiously awaiting those admissions decisions. So let's jump into it. So the first thing that I would do is I would come to terms with the fact that when you choose to come to a place like Stanford University, that you're likely going to feel dumb. And there's a good chance that you're gonna feel behind, or that you might not feel intellectually up to snuff with a lot of the other people around you. And this is what you're signing up for, essentially. Know and come to terms with that, because if you were to reframe this in another way, think about it. A lot of us are coming from more humble backgrounds where we don't necessarily have the academic pedigree, if you will, to really be operating at a high level. And that's kind of why we're transferring in the first place, is to get to a place where we have the resources, the mentorship, the access to improve our lot. And imagine you go to Stanford and you come from those more humble beginnings, and you look around and you're like, these are the smartest people in the universe, basically. And I feel like I'm in the top 5% of the smart. God, wouldn't that be disappointing? Wouldn't you feel so worried and deeply concerned about the state of the world and how we're going to survive the next 4 years if that was the case? Sure, I mean, we're all smart, but to think that, like, oh man, I'm the smartest, I feel like I'm the smartest person in the room consistently at Stanford. Whew, man, if I felt that, we would not be making it through the next 3 decades, I promise you that. All the climate technology that we need to develop, not gonna happen. So that's just a helpful reframe to maybe sort of challenge those ideas that you need to be the smartest, that you need to be the most intellectual, because a lot of the times, at least that was a big motivation for me to want to come to Stanford, was when you're consistently put in those situations where you don't feel like you're the smartest or the most intellectual person in the room, you can learn a lot. Like, that's where some awesome and amazing growth happens. And of course it's uncomfortable. And of course I didn't like it when I was experiencing it. But if I could go back and tell myself, like, hey, listen, it's a good thing that you don't feel smart. From like the state of the world and the state of our futures, it's a good thing. But also, like, this is exactly what you signed up for when you chose to transfer here. This is why you wanted to be here in the first place. And this kind of harkens back to something that I talked about in one of my first videos about how difficult it is sometimes to feel worthy and feel happy here. So that's the first thing that I would do, is come to terms with the fact that you're gonna feel dumb, and that's okay. And that everybody here is gonna work hard, but a lot of people here also feel dumb. Even the really smart traditional students, they're gonna go around and they're gonna feel stupid too. It's not a unique thing, we all feel it. It's a good thing that we do feel that. So the next thing that I would do is, within the first quarter that you get there, start looking for a ideally non-traditional mentor. They actually don't have to be non-traditional, but if it were my sort of objective, if it was me doing it again, I would be looking for people who followed a similar path to me, or something that just wasn't the traditional path. Because they might not get you exactly, but they'll get you more than somebody who's just, risen through the private school, like high school, Phillips, Exeter, then going to Cornell, then going to Harvard, then getting a PhD at Carnegie Mellon. Like, they might not get you as much as somebody who's even been a little bit different than that. So don't dilly-dally with this. Find a mentor, and I can make a whole another separate video on that. There's a lot of resources on finding a mentor, but ultimately the way you get a mentor, this is a bit of a sidebar, is you should never actually ask them, like, will you be my mentor? Like, that makes it kind of awkward. Like, just find somebody that you can trust and that you can talk about some of the challenges that you're experiencing, and someone who's willing to go up to bat and champion you, even if it's just from like the personality standpoint. And just a quick hint here, or a quick insight. There are a lot of like Nobel laureates here. There are a lot of world-class professors that people are dying to get 15 minutes with, whose office hours are oftentimes empty. Go to their office hours, find a way to talk to them, find a way to just consistently show up and show interest in them as people, not as, stepping stones to an internship, not as stepping stones into their research lab, not as like a potential networking connection or something that you can, leverage to your advantage. Like, take interest in them. Why did they do their work? Why are they interesting as people? And you'll be really surprised to see how far that goes. That really, really makes you different. And even then, like, just being a transfer is gonna make you different. There are a ton of kids who go into these people's office hours only to ask for regrades, only to beg and just plead for them to raise their grade from a B plus to an A. I shit you not. I wish I was joking. If you're going in there and you just want to talk and you just want to learn what they have to say about the world and their perspectives on life, you will be a welcome change. And this is the thing, the core component, or the core sort of like underlying objective here, is you want to build continuity. When you're in a quarter system especially, things move so fast. 10 weeks, classes are done. 10 weeks, classes are done. 10 weeks, classes are done. Now you're going to a summer internship and you do that for 4 years. It can be really hard to feel anchored and grounded in anything at all. Clubs are a great way of doing that. Student organizations, obviously great. But building a quality relationship with an organization or a faculty member on campus is going to give you something to hold on to throughout your entire 4 years here, ideally. And the best time to do that, the best time to start, is as soon as you step on campus. Do not wait. I plead you, do not wait. Because if you do wait, you say, oh, I'll just do it next quarter, you're going to just keep putting it off. You're just going to keep putting it off, and you're going to keep waiting for the right opportunity. And the right opportunity is never going to be there. The right opportunity is when you step on campus, because that's why you're at that school. You went to that school to get access to those faculty. That is the reason why they make them force these professors to have office hours. So take advantage of that. Be a little bit different, take interest in them as people, and anchor yourself, and have some kind of continuity across your 4 years, or however long you're going to be at your next university. All right, so that's 2. 3, talk to as many transfers as you can before you even show up. If your school doesn't have like an official peer mentor system, or like a transfer reaches out to you, and that's what Stanford does, is a transfer is going to call the transfer admits, and hopefully most of the time we try to optimize that the backgrounds to be similar, so you have a point of contact. Don't just stop with that though. Like, run it down. So I TA this class called Hacking for Defense here at Stanford, and it's an entrepreneurship / technology innovation class. And one of the things that you do in every single interview when you're doing your customer discovery is you ask, do you have 2 more people that I can talk to, that you think I should talk to based on the things that we just talked about? Do the same thing here. Run it down to the ground. Talk to as many transfers as you can, so you can be the person, the wise person who learns from others' mistakes. Because transferring is not easy, navigating the space is not easy, and there's a lot of really small administrative and logistic thorns that will just completely ruin your experience. Completely, actually, that's kind of that's a really strong way of wording that, but there are a lot of things that can make it extremely difficult for you to really experience Stanford or wherever you go at its fullest extent. So talk to as many of these people as you possibly can, especially in that summer leading up to that fall quarter. And obviously be respectful of their time, but try to give a lay for the land, and talk to people who are in your major of interest and are not. Like, everybody has a useful perspective based on what they've experienced. So just talk to as many as you possibly can, and set yourself up for success to avoid some of those common pitfalls that other people have experienced. And lastly, this one's more of a plead than anything else, is document your experience. When it comes down to it, you should want to be a giver. You should not want to be a taker. If you're watching this video, you're probably acutely aware of how little resources there are for transfers going to schools like Stanford. You're probably frustrated about that. I was frustrated about that. That's why I do this video. That's why I do these videos. That's why I do the office hours. That's why I do all of this. It's because I was frustrated about how little content there was that was not, lunacy on College Confidential or just complete total bullshit and hearsay on Reddit. So be a giver. You know that this space is missing content. Put something out there. You might not feel qualified, sure, but does anybody feel qualified really? Like, it's hard. Yeah, I get it. I totally understand. It's kind of hard to put yourself in the position to want to voice your experience and voice it with some kind of authority on the matter. But listen, the barrier for qualified to talk about this is pretty low. And if you've been admitted, what other kind of qualifications do you need, honestly? Because you're not giving, I'm not saying give admissions advice. And that's what I always try to emphasize, is that I'm not trying to give admissions advice. I'm trying to give sort of like introspective advice or things, ways to reframe your experiences so you can feel confident going into your application cycle. Not necessarily because it'll help you get in, but because it will help you become more confident and have more conviction in your story. So just don't be selfish. We know that there's content that needs to be made in this space. And if you don't feel qualified, just don't use that as an excuse, because you don't need to be qualified. You're not giving admissions advice. You're talking about your experience as an applicant and talking about what you did to get yourself to the point where you were confident enough to just submit that application, or you were confident enough to maybe even tell somebody else that you were applying to Stanford from a community college, despite some of the horror stories that I've heard about people passing extremely negative judgment about those wanting to better themselves. So just talk about your experiences. I guarantee you, there is somebody who is extremely, extremely similar, 80%, if not more, similar to your story, to your demographics, your background, who's dying to know what it's like to be like them and apply to schools like you're applying to. These small things, these small actions make an enormous difference. And we know, all of us in this community know how sorely it's missing content. Please, I just urge you, write about it, record a video about it, talk to other people about it, collaborate. Just put something into the world to make everything a net positive. I just beg you, don't be a taker, because you're more qualified than you think, and there is somebody out there who would love to hear your story and may just decide to apply to Stanford, to Harvard, to Princeton, and get in because of the things that you put out. And this is not me saying like this to like pump up my own ego, but the couple of times that somebody, like an admin, has told me, like, they saw my video, it changed the way that they wrote their essays, changed the way that they thought about their story, and they feel like it really did help them get in. I didn't think that small action that me doing these little things would be that meaningful. I still can't believe it, but you have the power to do the same thing, and I encourage you to do so. So that's really more of an ask. And I know that was sort of like sneakily added into this video, but with all that being said, those are the things that I would be doing over the next couple of months if you're lucky enough to get admitted. If not, I'm gonna make another video about that as well. But to recap really quickly, come to terms with the fact that when you come to an elite university, part of that deal is that you're probably going to feel dumb, and you're going to feel behind the power curve, and that's okay. It's totally okay, and it's going to suck at times, but at the same time, you're going to be a resource for other people, and it's going to be great. The second thing is try to find an advisor or a mentor as quickly as you possibly can. Do not dilly-dally. The day you set up foot on campus, try to get into the office hours of any of the professors that you have. Just do it. Just get started early. You will not regret it. Next, talk to as many other transfers as you possibly can. Get the scoop, get the tea, get everything. Get the whole tea factory. Get everything. You want to know what all the mistakes are so you don't have to make them. You're probably still going to make mistakes, but at least you can pass that on to the next person. And lastly, please document your experience, contribute to the space. It'd be great if there was just as many videos on transferring to universities as getting in as a freshman. It's not going to happen, but, guy can dream, right? So that's all I have for tonight. Take it easy.